The billing reconciliation report showed a discrepancy of $47,000, and I'd been staring at the screen for 20 minutes trying to make sense of it. My name is Thornton Sinclair. I'm 42 years old, a project finance partner at one of Indianapolis's most respected practices. For the past 18 years, I've built my reputation on precision. Every contract clause matters. Every billing entry gets verified twice. That's how you survive in complex infrastructure deals worth hundreds of millions. The numbers didn't lie, but they weren't telling the truth either. I pulled up the case management system again. The Meridian Energy wind farm project showed my billable hours at 237 for October. My personal tracking spreadsheet showed 412. The difference represented nearly 3 weeks of work that had simply vanished from the firm's records. I scrolled through the individual entries. Client meetings I'd attended were missing. Document reviews I'd completed showed no record. Depositions I'd conducted appeared to have been handled by someone else entirely. The timestamp on the last modification caught my attention. October 31st, 11:47 p.m. I'd been home that night, reviewing discovery materials for the Carmel Municipal Bond hearing. Someone had accessed my billing records after midnight and systematically altered them. My phone buzzed. A text from Malcolm Blackwood, our AI compliance officer. Need to discuss your Q3 performance metrics. My office, 8 a.m. tomorrow. Malcolm had joined the firm 6 months ago from a tech consulting background. The partners had hired him to streamline our case management and ensure compliance with new digital filing requirements. He'd implemented sophisticated tracking systems that monitored everything from document access to billing patterns. I trusted him completely. He'd helped me navigate the transition to electronic discovery protocols. We'd worked late nights together, debugging case management glitches and optimizing workflow processes. They'd even asked me to be godparent to his daughter when she was born last spring. But Malcolm would have administrative access to every system in the firm. I printed the billing report and locked it in my desk drawer. The office felt different now, like someone had moved the furniture while I was away. Every shadow seemed deliberate. Every sound carried weight. The elevator chimed in the hallway. Footsteps approached my door, then continued past. I waited until the building fell silent again before logging back into the system. This time I checked the access logs. The access logs painted a disturbing picture. Malcolm Blackwood's credentials had been used to modify billing records across 17 different attorney accounts over the past 4 months. The pattern was surgical in its precision, reducing billable hours just enough to trigger performance reviews without raising immediate suspicion. I'd known Malcolm since his first day at the firm. The partners had recruited him from a boutique legal technology consultancy in Chicago, impressed by his dissertation on AI-driven compliance monitoring in large law practices. He'd arrived with impeccable references and an infectious enthusiasm for modernizing our antiquated systems. Within weeks, he'd revolutionized our document management protocols. Case files that once took hours to locate could be retrieved in seconds. Billing discrepancies that had plagued the firm for years disappeared overnight. The partners praised his efficiency at every monthly meeting. Malcolm had seemed genuinely invested in the firm's success. He'd worked weekends without complaint, staying late to train attorneys on new software implementations. When my wife and I struggled with fertility treatments last year, he'd quietly adjusted my caseload to reduce travel requirements. His wife Theodora had sent flowers when we finally received good news. The godparent invitation had felt natural. Malcolm and Theodora had become close friends, not just colleagues. We'd shared dinners at their home in Broad Ripple, discussing everything from legal ethics to parenting philosophies. When little Emma was born, I'd felt honored by their trust. But the data didn't lie. Malcolm's administrative access had been used to systematically manipulate billing records, targeting specific attorneys whose reduced hours would trigger the firm's restructuring protocols. The October modifications weren't random. They were calculated to push my billable threshold below the partnership's minimum requirements. I cross-referenced the altered accounts with the firm's recent performance evaluations. Every attorney whose records had been modified was now facing reduced profit-sharing percentages or outright termination discussions. The restructuring that had eliminated 3 associates last month wasn't based on legitimate performance metrics. It was built on fabricated data. The scope became clearer as I dug deeper into the system logs. Malcolm hadn't just altered current billing records. He'd been systematically modifying historical data, creating a false narrative of declining productivity across multiple departments. The firm's financial projections, used to justify the recent layoffs, were based entirely on his manipulated numbers. My hands trembled as I documented each discovery. Screenshots of access logs, printouts of original versus modified billing entries, timestamps showing after-hours system modifications. The two was overwhelming, but it implicated someone I'd trusted completely. The office door creaked. I minimized the screen and turned toward the sound. Empty hallway. The building's heating system cycled on, filling the silence with mechanical whispers. I was alone, but the paranoia felt justified now. I called Theodora Whitmore, our senior litigation partner, and the only person I trusted to handle this situation objectively. She'd been with the firm for 15 years, predating Malcolm's arrival by a decade. Her reputation for ethical practice was unquestioned. "Thornton? It's past midnight. What's wrong?" "I need to show you something. Can you meet me at the office tomorrow before Malcolm's morning meetings?" "This sounds serious." "It is. And Theodora? Don't mention this conversation to anyone. Not yet." She agreed to meet at 7 a.m. I spent the remaining hours documenting every piece of Tilly, creating multiple backup copies on encrypted drives. If Malcolm had been monitoring my system access, he'd know I was investigating. The morning confrontation would determine whether my suspicions were justified or if I'd destroyed a friendship over a misunderstanding. But the numbers didn't allow for misinterpretation. Malcolm Blackwood had been systematically defrauding the firm, manipulating billing data to force restructuring decisions that benefited his position while destroying the careers of attorneys who'd trusted him completely. The godparent invitation now felt like mockery. He'd asked me to help raise his daughter while simultaneously sabotaging my livelihood. The late-night conversations about legal ethics had been conducted by someone who was actively violating every principle we'd discussed. I locked the oath in my office safe and tried to sleep. Tomorrow would bring answers, but tonight brought only the crushing realization that 6 months of friendship had been built on deception. Malcolm's helpful suggestions, his technical expertise, his apparent dedication to the firm's success, all of it had been cover for a sophisticated scheme to manipulate our most fundamental business metrics. The morning meeting would reveal whether Malcolm Blackwood was the colleague I'd trusted or the criminal that suggested he'd become.